You are listening to A Plain and Simple Connection, Book 1 of the Rion D. Ryder series, written by Eskay Kabba, narrated by Jeremy Bartelt, published by Horsemen Publications, Incorporated. Copyright Eskay Kabba, 2024. All rights reserved. Content warning: explicit language, explicit sexual situations, and drug use. Chapter 1. Rion started counting down the last 30 minutes. He pulled his sweatshirt hoodie up close to his face and leaned farther into the small window. The guy next to him smelled like old eggs and cheap cologne. His tree-trunk thighs were pressed against Rion's smaller ones, which he found amazing and frustrating, given the armrest between them. 3 hours in the air with someone who made him physically and mentally recoil, the guy just wouldn't stop talking, was more than enough. The man was getting off in New York, and the plane was staying to refuel, and the new passengers would be boarding. Hopefully his new seatmate would be someone who didn't spend the whole time talking about his ex-wife, who had left him because she felt she outgrew him and he had stayed the same lazy, unambitious man he'd always been. By the end of his trip, Rion could honestly see why she had left him. But when her mother gets in her ear, that's what happens. And her father never liked me anyway. He always thought I was a meathead jock, but football was my life, and when I tore my ACL, what did they expect me to do? It's not like she supported me anyway. The man droned on. It didn't matter that Rion had his headphones in and had long since turned away from him. Trevor, as he learned the man's name was before the plane took off, seemed like he just needed to let off some steam and hear himself talk. It was Rion's fault. He was a people person and liked starting conversations with interesting people. Most of the time, it was fine. Even the most annoying people had interesting stories. But Trevor was not interesting. He was someone who expected things to just fall into his lap, and when they didn't, he took no accountability. Rion had no patience for people who didn't own their circumstances, good or bad. Ladies and gentlemen, please turn up your trays, adjust your seats to the upright position, and fasten your seatbelts. The flight attendant announced. We will be landing in approximately 20 minutes. God, yes, Rion thought. He quickly did as he was told, while Trevor continued to talk about starting over and moving in with his cousin in Brooklyn, who owned an auto body shop and could use the help. How he had lived in San Francisco his whole life, but was ready for a change, to get as far away from his lost love as possible. How he couldn't wait for the first snowfall and fighting with New Yorkers, who all sounded like Robert De Niro to him. Sounds like it's going to be a good move for you, Rion answered happily, excited for Trevor to finally leave the plane. Rion held onto the armrests tightly, already hating the landing more than the rising of the plane. As the aircraft descended, he closed his eyes, chewed his gum, and counted backward from 50 in his head until he felt the wheels bump against the tarmac. Only then did he open his eyes. He looked at the bright lights from the airport. Rion had actually never been to New York. One day he'll write a story set there and be forced to roam the city that never sleeps, but it had never been a must-do on his list. Neither was London, for that matter, but between falling asleep during a Harry Potter marathon and waking up to a raging boner that had him looking up porn, a story formed in his head. He had spent the last week writing the outline and then knew he had to go. In order for the story to be successful, Rion had to understand the culture and see it for himself. So no, New York was not his destination today. London was. South London, Brixton, to be exact. He would start there. Thanks for listening, Rion. Have fun on your trip, Trevor said as he pulled his bag down and followed others out of the aisle. Rion waved goodbye and didn't even bother correcting the pronunciation of his name. When there were just a few stragglers like himself left on the plane, he stood up and stretched. He looked at his phone for the time. 11:37 p.m. The plan was to leave at 12:50 a.m., just enough time to refuel and get the redeye passengers on. He was hoping a plane leaving in the middle of the night, in the middle of the week, would be empty, so he would be able to stretch out on the seat next to him for the next 7 hours. He said,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?